it's Meg. Welcome back to the podcast. Today is World Mental Health Day, and so I thought it would be a good time to sit down and talk about why it's so important to talk about mental health, and that kind of leading into the whole reason I started this podcast in the first place. I also wanted to do a brief life update and kind of reflect on the past 2 years of my mental health and how it's, ebbed and flowed, and also talk about the ways I've begun to learn to manage my mental health struggles. Just for a little bit of context, if you're listening to this, you have no idea who I am. My name is Megan. I'm 22 years old. I have bipolar disorder as well as an anxiety and panic disorder. So I am not a mental health professional by any means, and everything I'm talking about is just from my own personal experience, so keep that in mind. This is also going to be a bit of a heavier episode in the beginning, and so I'm going to link some mental health resources as well as put some hotline numbers in the description if you yourself are struggling with mental health. So with that being said, I want to start by kind of talking about the most serious and heavy aspect of dealing with mental health, and that is suicide. If suicide is too overwhelming of a topic for you to listen to, completely understand. I'm going to talk about it briefly. So I'm going to put the time in the description as well of when that conversation is over, or just skip this episode altogether. So when I attempted to end my own life about 1.5 years ago, I just remember feeling so awful and like there was nothing more I could do to try and get better. At this point, I was still keeping everything to myself though and hadn't really expressed to anyone how bad things were getting. I was also in college, so I was pretty far away from my support system, and it was just like easier to just pretend everything was okay than worry someone. I also didn't think anyone was feeling what I was feeling or would have understood it if I had brought it up, so I just didn't say anything, but unfortunately that is like so far from the truth. Just like a couple of statistics, over 49,000 people die from suicide each year within the United States, and over 1.6 million attempt suicide every year. So it's a real problem, yet it's still talked about at a very surface level because it's uncomfortable. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that if you just think positive thoughts and force yourself out of bed and out of the house, it'll get better. I used to get so frustrated when people would tell me that, because it was often coming from people who like openly said that they did not struggle with mental health. And obviously everyone has bad days, but there's a difference between dealing with a mental illness and struggling with mental health and just having a bad day or a bad week. Like I said, it's been 1.5 years, and I'm definitely not perfect, but I am doing a lot better. And I want to talk about like all the good, bad, and ugly that comes along with struggling and recovering from like that dark point in my life. And I think if I had heard someone who had been in a similar situation to me during that time when I was experiencing those really negative thoughts and emotions, I think it really could have helped and maybe stopped me from trying to take such extreme measures. I think it's hard when you feel like people are brushing it under the rug, and I'm not saying that like specifically anyone in my life was doing this, but it does kind of feel like you are so consumed by the negative thoughts and feelings you're having that you can't rationalize it to yourself, and so when other people try and rationalize it to you, it feels like they're downplaying it, which can be really frustrating. And so take it from me, someone who has been in that position, like I get it, and I am doing better now, and I want to talk about how I've got there, because if you had like said to me 1 year, honestly even 6 months ago, that like you just gotta keep pushing, like things will get better, I would have wanted to hit you. Like it is so infuriating. So we're gonna talk a little bit about my experience and hopefully give you some ideas of tools you can implement into your life and try and see if it helps. Or hopefully if you are struggling and you can relate to some of this, it makes you feel a little bit less alone and like you're not the only one going through it, because I think that's what makes it so hard. So when I was at the point where I felt like I just could not do it anymore. I couldn't go through another day feeling how I was feeling. I was only thinking about making a decision that would, what I thought would benefit me. I was not considering the effect it would have on anyone else. And I'm not sitting here saying that having suicidal thoughts or taking suicidal actions is selfish and that makes you a bad person. I think inherently when you are in that state of mind, you are so beyond exhausted and like spiraling that you're selfish kind of out of just situational stuff. Like, you're not intentionally only thinking about yourself. It's just you are so consumed by what is going on in your mind that it's impossible to then pull yourself out of them and be like, oh, I should really consider how everyone else is feeling about this. Like, that's not realistic. But I will say, I like, now looking back, what I think about most is how it, like, if I did get to that point again, how much it would impact people around me. And I think that's because I saw how much it impacted everyone around me and how scared I made everyone that night. And I just don't ever want to put anyone in that position again. So I think if you need a little reason to, I don't want to say I think it's so hard to assume how someone in that state can handle something, because I have my story and how it went down for me, but I'm sure there are a million other people who it goes down completely differently for. Actually, I know there's a million people who it goes down completely differently for, who it happens completely differently for. I would just say, genuinely think about the people who love and care about you and what losing you would do to them. I kind of saw it firsthand, and I'm lucky I made it out of that, but it is really hard to like picture sometimes. So now what really pushes me past like those really heavy dark days is like, I'm not getting to that point again, because I don't want other people to see me at that point and be worried. Not necessarily that I'm like embarrassed by it, because it happened, like there's nothing I can do about it now. More so just I don't want to put anyone else through that again, let alone myself. So I think it's okay if you kind of use other people as your motivation for getting better in the start. I think eventually you should really learn to do it for yourself and kind of develop that self-respect and self-love to want to get better for yourself. But in the beginning, like when I first came home from college after my attempt, my main motivation was just to ease everyone else's mind and make sure that they knew that like I wasn't going to do it again. And struggling with mental health is such a spectrum. I want to make it very clear that like the goal is not to get to the point of being suicidal, and you are still valid in struggling with mental health if you are not at that point. I hope and pray nobody is ever at that point. It happens. But like, you are so valid in struggling with your mental health even before you get to that point. Like, the goal is to manage it before that point. And that's why I think it's so important to talk about, because I did not speak up until that point. And that's the case for many people. And it's why we lose so many amazing people, because everyone who struggles with mental health has that loneliness. And it makes it really difficult and overwhelming to even know where to start on how to start feeling better. Now, I don't want to stay on the dark and heavy matter of suicide much longer, so I'm going to switch over and kind of talking about how I'm doing now. So I am just over a year post-grad of college. I have been working in my like preferred career when I got my degree, and I don't know how else to say that. And I also started grad school, so I have been stressed. The past couple weeks have been hard. I just had my first midterm of grad school, and I pulled all-nighters almost every other day for like a week and a half leading up to my midterm submission, and I was just not well, like mentally. I think I had the biggest low I've had since my episode my attempt, I was like really struggling, and don't want to like worry anyone and say I was at the point. I was not nearly at the point I was at when I was having those really dark thoughts, but it was definitely the first time where I got nervous that I was slipping into like a really bad spot. I think a lot of it had to do with stress, and I wasn't sleeping, I wasn't eating right, wasn't exercising. Like, all I was doing was working all day, coming home, working all through the night, maybe taking like an hour or two nap, and then going back to work. And so it was just very exhausting. Happy to report, doing better now. Midterm is submitted. I have like one more assignment left for a class, and then I start new classes on Monday. So I'm really taking this weekend as like a fresh start to get reorganized and reset my whole like mindset for the fall and winter. I think I want to do an episode on the winter arc too, which, if you don't know, it's kind of like your winter like period before New Year's, where you really just like hone in and focus on your goals from this year before you make new goals for the new year. But that's a whole other conversation. But yeah, I think the slip in my mood, I have had like mood episodes since the last year, but this was the first one where I felt out of control. I think in other situations, because I've been doing so much like inner work on my bipolar disorder and mental health, I knew that it was going to come and go. This was the first one where it felt very consuming. And I had told my friend about it, and I think it was just a matter of getting through those midterms really started to lighten the load. And also, like, I was just so irritated with literally everyone. Like, my family would be like upstairs, because I'm at my parents' house. My room is the basement, so I can hear when they're like walking across our living room because it's right above my head. My dad would like be getting home from work in his work boots and walking in the house, and it would be so loud, and oh my god, I would want to like throw something. Like, it's just, everything was making me really irritable. Now I've come down a little bit, feeling a lot more level-headed. I'm excited to, I have work tomorrow and that's the weekend. I'm excited to really deep clean and put out my fall decorations and make my plan for the winter arc and just really get into a good routine. But I want to talk about this because I don't want you to think that I'm just sitting here up on my high horse and being like, oh yeah, I had like a bad year and then I got better. I'm going to struggle with mental health for the rest of my life. It just is what it is. And I used to get really like beaten down by that, but there's nothing I can do about it but manage it and be open about it, and hopefully it's something that I can turn into a positive. And that's what I'm trying to do with this podcast, is just find a way to take one thing that really impacts my life and help other people with it, and hopefully have a positive impact from it as well. So we're doing good now, but I did have a little not slip up, just like my normal freaking mood episodes and bipolar, like it's gonna happen. So I had like about like 3 to 4 weeks where I was really not doing so hot. Other than that, things have been going good. I went to a Gracie Abrams concert last weekend, and it was the best night of my life. I have Taylor Swift next month, and I'm going to see Gracie again there. I have plans with friends and stuff, but we're going to get into that later. I do want to like make kind of a stark transition and give a little bit of a motivational blurb. So if that's going to like make you cringe, understandable, just bear with me for a moment. I just wanted to put a few reminders out there because it is World Mental Health Day. I think these are just things we need to remind ourselves of more than once a year. It is great that there's a day dedicated to bringing awareness to mental health, but it really is something that should be talked about in a much larger capacity and much more frequently, in my opinion. So here's a little reminder for you that someone loves you, someone will miss you, someone will drive all night and listen to you talk about, complain, like debrief everything that's going on in your mind. And they will talk to you on the phone or talk to you in person. Someone will hear you out. It is just a matter of finding those people, and you will find those people. struggling with mental health is like too hard and too heavy to deal with alone. You shouldn't have to. I also want to say, like, you are not a burden and you are not annoying for bringing up what you're struggling with to someone else. And you're not making a big deal of a little thing by taking the time to sit down and have that conversation with someone. Now, I'm not saying that this is the easiest thing to do. It's actually, like, hard. Like, I'll admit, like, it's very uncomfortable. But take it from me, who has been at that rock bottom position, the one thing I can confidently say that helped me the most get out of that was talking about it. There was no magical pill. Like, yes, I'm on medication to help manage, but it doesn't fix everything. You really have to, like, do the mental work and talk to, like, family or friends or a therapist or a doctor. I am fortunate that I have parents who have learned to understand and take mental health seriously, but I get it can be challenging at first. My parents didn't really know what to do when I started having panic attacks at 14. Like, it was very confusing to them, and I didn't get on anxiety medication until I was almost 19. So I get that it can be hard. I think the most important thing is to do not be afraid to advocate for yourself. It is your life, and now I have a great relationship with my parents in talking about it. And I bring this up probably almost every episode, but the one piece of advice I have gotten that has truly changed my, like, outlook on struggling with mental health and making it feel less like this heavy weight on my chest that's, like, unmanageable is when I had gotten home from school, was really struggling. I had, like, a 4-month period where I did nothing, and eventually one day, and not in, like, a rude way, he was just kind of like, I know you're trying, but you're the only one who can pull you out of this. No one can force you to get better. Like, you have to want to do it. And that's kind of what I was talking about earlier with the thought of, like, I think it's okay in the beginning to use other people as a source of motivation to get better, whether that's, you know, not wanting to have them, like, always worried or, you know, wanting to make people proud. But eventually it comes down to, like, you wanting to do it for you, and that's what's really going to make the difference. All right, enough with the sappy shit. Let's talk about all of the reasons I continue to keep fighting my mental health and working through it. And also some of the things that I am glad I have got to be here for because my attempt was unsuccessful. So let's get into my reasons to stay. Number one, and one of the bigger reasons, is that I am so incredibly fucking stubborn. If you know me, you've probably laughed at that because of how true it is. I know what I want and I'm gonna get it. And I think in the aspect of mental health, what I want, my goal really with managing mental health, talking about mental health, is I want to set an example, specifically and especially with people with bipolar disorder, that it does not determine your life and the things you can and cannot do. When I first was diagnosed, it wasn't a surprise, but I felt very frustrated with all of the sort of immediate, what's the right word? Not expectations, but, and not stereotypes. What am I looking for? Just, like, the beliefs that were placed on me of, oh, well, you're not going to be able to do this, or that's not looking good. Like, one of the big ones is, like, moving. Like, my family is very scared for me to move, and I think the issue is, like, one, I know that I'm moving states when I do move, so that's scary, but I just want to prove that, like, I can do it, and I'm very goal oriented, and I have a lot of big goals when it comes to, like, managing my mental health and even just things unrelated. Like, I have very ambitious career goals that I've been told is too stressful to deal with on top of bipolar disorder, and I have known what I wanted to do since middle school. I'm not changing that because I got a diagnosis when I was 20. Like, it's just simply not going to happen. I'm not going to let something I didn't choose to be a part of my life stop me from achieving things that I've always wanted for myself. Number 2, I want to spend as much time as I can with friends and loved ones and celebrate their wins. I used to really keep to myself because I was struggling so hard and I didn't want to burden anyone with it. And now that I'm very open with it, I feel a lot more comfortable being around people, especially if I'm like not having the best day. No one like makes a big deal of it in a sense that like that's all they see me for. I feel very seen by the people in my life. It only took some time to get there, but now I feel very comfortable. Like I don't always have to be at my tip-top shape to want to be around people, and I can just be me. And also I think because I was out of state for college, I like missed some milestones, and now that I'm doing better and I sort of have that positive outlook on life again and I want to see the future, there are things I'm looking forward to now, which for a while I didn't have. Like that it just was not a thought. Like I didn't care about anything that could potentially happen. It did not mean anything to me because of how bad everything else was. So yeah, definitely spending more time with loved ones and wanting to celebrate wins and accomplishments and milestones is a big reason of why I keep pushing to maintain my mental health and get better. Number 3. Now this one's going to be a little bit cheesy, but now that I do see that things get better, it is easier to think of bad days as just bad days. And so that really helps when I'm having a hard time. Like I said, I was just really struggling for the past few weeks, and I knew that once I got over that hurdle of the midterm, which was causing the main stress, and I think what caused my little mood episode, I knew there would be some sort of relief there. And I think before I was really bad about taking things day by day and just thinking that there was never going to be relief, which is common like when struggling with mental health. So I don't like feel bad if you're struggling with that right now. It takes like time to get to that point. But I will say like my whole world doesn't collapse in on me anymore when I'm having a bad day. I can just view it as a bad day. For the majority, obviously I have episodes where I need a little reminder from an outside source that things are going to be okay. But I'm human, so it happens. Now, I do want to end this episode on more of a positive note. So I want to talk about the things I've gotten to experience and things in the future that I'm excited to experience, just as a little recap and hopefully some motivation. If you are struggling, that there are things that you can probably make a list of to look forward to, or things to look back on and be proud of. So number 1 is I graduated college. I got my bachelor's degree about 3 weeks after my attempt, which was just situational timing, but hey, I did it. I still walked the stage. I had to be dragged there, but I did it. Shortly after that, I celebrated my 21st birthday with my best friend in the same week. And 1 weekend we did her birthday, next weekend it was my birthday, and we also went to the Eras tour the day before my birthday, which if you're not a Swiftie, there is no Swiftie slander allowed here, so keep it to yourself. I've also gone to so many concerts, and I've seen all of my favorite artists within the last year and a half. I've seen Taylor Swift. I just saw Gracie Abrams, who is like my number 1. And I cried the entire time, and I'm getting choked up about it now. It was truly the best night of my life. Oh my god. Okay, we can't talk about it because I'll cry. I saw Noah Kahan. I got my Noah Kahan tattoo 2 or 3 weeks ago. I was gonna show it, but hold on. Okay, if you're watching the video, you can see it. It's on my wrist. It just says, "Give yourself a reason" with a semicolon. It's from the song Call Your Mom. If you know that song, it is kind of about someone struggling and not wanting to be here anymore. It's very eerily similar to the events that took place the night of my attempt, in the sense that my best friend woke my entire family up, called my mom, and then drove all night, which is one of the lyrics in the song. So yeah, I got that tattoo. I've gone to so many other concerts too. I've seen Pitbull, Dan and Shay. Who else have I seen? maybe that's it so far. No, I saw more last year. I don't remember the ones I saw last summer, but I've seen more. And like I said, I am seeing the Eras Tour again next month. And maybe that's like a stupid reason to some people's concerts, but I live for concerts. I breathe concerts. Live music is like just, it's amazing and I love it. So like I said before, I've gotten to spend a lot more time with family and friends, especially since moving back home from school. I've gotten to see like my cousins more, and like my best friends more, and it has just been nice to kind of be surrounded by my support system again and not have them from afar. I also went to Mexico and I watched my cousin get married, which was very cool. It was a very fun trip, and it was also my dad's first time out of the country, which was really cool to see. He did lose his passport within less than an hour of being in Mexico, but we found it. So he is now a supervised traveler. He went to New York with me last weekend for the concert, and like every time we would leave the hotel room, I had to make sure he had his phone, wallet, and hotel key. So he's not the best traveler, but it was really cool to see him get to experience being out of the country for the first time, especially since me and my sister both have been able to do that because of him and everything he's given us. It was really like sweet to watch that moment for him. I'm acting like he like got on the plane and cried. Like he was not like being dramatic about it whatsoever, but just knowing that like it was his first time and he had given so much to us, like for us to have already been able to do that before him, it was very sweet. Okay, before I cry, we're gonna move on. I've gotten to watch my best friends graduate and start their careers and really grow into their own. I have like my longest friend who I met the day before kindergarten, Emily. If you're listening, I love you. I'm so proud of you. Oh, and I can't talk about it because I'll cry. But my best friend has been in the State Trooper Academy for the past 6 months, and she graduates next week, and I'm so excited for her. I've watched my other friends graduate nursing school and start their careers and just become like their own person, which has been really amazing. And I'm all very proud of them. I started grad school, which is crazy to me because I took a year in between. Like I did not graduate undergrad and immediately went to grad school. I took a year and worked. But it is crazy to me now that the fact that I am managing grad school and working full time, when like just looking back at how I was a year and a half ago, like I could have never pictured myself handling that much like workload and stress. And like I said, I did have a bit of a breakdown the past couple weeks, but I managed it and I got through it, so whatever. And also just like looking forward to things in the future. I'm nearing that age where people are like getting engaged and having babies. None of my friends, we're all single as fuck. None of that's happening anytime soon. But like some of my family friends are currently engaged and pregnant and about to have a baby, and I'm very excited for her. Yeah, I think there's just a lot of positive things to look forward to, and it can be really hard when you're struggling to think of them, but I think sitting down and like genuinely making a list really helps. Like making this list of things that I've gotten to experience in the past year and a half has made me very proud of myself, which even saying that, I'm like, you like don't give yourself too much credit, but like I should. Like I've worked very hard to get to where I am, and I think it's okay to pat yourself on the back here and there. So I feel like I've just been rambling on and on for a while now, so bear with me while we kind of wrap everything up. I think that myself and many others, and possibly you if you're listening to this right now, are at a point where we have to think about and consider our mental health daily. And I know for me that can be really exhausting to like take on alone, like especially if you're in like a really dark place or recovering from a dark place. It's very hard to work all of that out on your own, which I think is why therapy is such an important tool. Talking to your friends and family is such an important tool. Talking to a doctor is an important tool. There are so many different avenues to go down to get the help you need. But like I said, it's very exhausting to take on your own, which is why I continue to emphasize how important it is to talk about it, and like not just in our personal lives, but as like a society as a whole. And so I'm gonna keep talking about it. So I'm gonna keep talking about it here on this podcast and just being very open and raw about it, because I think it is something that would have helped me when I was going through it. And if I can take the negative things I've gone through and experienced and make them a positive sort of tool to help others, then I'm going to do that. But I do want to like reiterate that this is just my own personal story and like outlook and opinions. So like I mentioned earlier, I'm going to link some resources and hotlines below. Please use them if you do feel like you're struggling. There is no shame in struggling or admitting you're struggling or reaching out because you're struggling. So take advantage of that if you need to. And yeah, happy World Mental Health Day. With all that being said, I am going to end the episode here. I hope you have an amazing morning, evening, afternoon, night, whenever you are listening to this. And remember to take care of yourself. I love you, and I'll see you next time.